Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is quality practices deployed in Agile development methodology. Our guest speaker today is Rama Bedarkar. She is quality practicing and training consultant, and she is a sole consultant. A software quality professional with 18 years of intense experience in India as well as abroad in software industry, mainly in quality assurance, project management space, have been mainly handling project management, man management, process management, customer management, and operations management. As a quality thought leader, she has been working as a consultant and providing services to IT industry for quality practices deployment, operational cost reduction, meeting standards and compliance audits, and finally helping them to perform better. She has been working as an Agile coach for deploying Agile practices. So, without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Rama.
Yeah. Thank you, Aradhana. Good afternoon, everybody. Am I audible to everybody? We are good to go?
Yes, Rama, we are good to go.
Yeah, we are good to go, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I have shared my screen, my presentation screen. So I'm sure everybody is able to see the screen. I'll be covering today, the core issues of software development. We are facing day in, day out a lot of issues in the development. There are engineering practices for quality deployment. I'll be covering those engineering practices. And then I'll be talking about, how Agile methodology is generally deployed in brief. What is the focus in Agile methodology? And then what are the different quality practices which are deployed in Agile development methodology. Okay, and my focus here is, I believe, the quality can be achieved in a better way, in more streamlined manner, because we are agile in Agile development methodology, and then we finally end up in reducing the rework and improving the productivity and naturally quality compliances. Okay, so with this agenda, I'm moving ahead. We'll be having questions. Okay, basically, my first slide. Typically, the software development issues, 53% of the projects have failed in 2013. That is the latest figure which I have. 53 is very, very sizable number, I feel. Now, what are the main issues? Why these softwares, why we are facing these issues in the software development in our industry? Mainly of the requirements management. There are a lot of areas like understanding business requirements, clarity in requirements, establishing the granularity of the requirements, and again, changes coming into the business requirement, and we have to respond to those changes. These are some of the areas. Some more issues are like involvement of the business analyst. Since business analyst may not be available, the right requirements from the business domain are not actually reaching to the technical people. And because of this, there are 22% of the defects which fall in this requirements management category. Inconsistencies in the design, development and maintenance, and in the code quality, these are very typical issues. Compliance to coding standards, code performance and optimization. I would say 35% of the issues are because of the code. Testing is always a challenge, because the testing time is very, very short. Because of the time constraint, the test coverage is sometimes an issue, and because of this there are leakages. Insufficient testing gives rise to performance issues, security issues. We have automation already done for testing, but the scripts development, optimization of the scripts, and maintenance of those scripts is pretty expensive. So as a whole, test effectiveness decreases, And then the support cost. And because there are more defects, the quality is impacted after deployment on the production environment. We have a lot of resources taking care of those tickets, and then we have to deliver based on the service level agreement and on the severity and priority. That is pretty challenging. One major issue which we are facing today is the team communication, bringing team on the same page, having communication gaps. And now because of the globalization, we have distributed team at the geographically different locations. We are working in the different time zones. We have different work cultures. And because of that, there are gaps in the communication, in understanding the needs of the team members rightly. Okay. One more major aspect I would like to point out, customer involvement. Customer involvement is very, very essential, and understanding customers' expectations, and we as well as customers should be on the same page when we are developing software. That is one of the major issues. There are other issues which are project management specific, scope creep, and then we monitor and track the schedule, efforts, the task. We have risk management, quality management, configuration management, man management, people management. These are typical issues. I would like to summarize this in saying, it's like a big jigsaw puzzle. We have to fit in all the different pieces together to ensure that our project success. For the success of the project, this jigsaw puzzle has to fit in with all its parts perfectly well. Else we are, we end up in spoiling the quality as well as increasing the rework and the operational cost. Now, when we talk about engineering practices, now most of our engineering practices, they are quality practices focusing mainly on the process management. Like we have to follow a process. The process should not become, we have to comply with the process, but it should not become overhead. We have to have lightweight processes with right controls, and it should promote our agility. Then we have measurement metrics issues, like we need to monitor our performance. Unless we have measurements in place, we would not be able to say how are we doing, project measurements, process measurements, resource measurements, all this come into the picture. Now in engineering practices, verification and validation techniques, they are very commonly used, and we have reviews and testing. We review multiple artifacts, requirements, design and code. We have different types of testing, functional, non-functional, different methodologies. We have acceptance criteria, automated testing, and a streamlined defect tracking and monitoring. All these V&V techniques, basically they focus on identification of the risks at early stage. So you identify issues as soon as possible. And when defects are identified, they are pointing to what functionality and how is the business risk when this particular functionality is impacted. Okay. Okay, so in brief, these engineering practices mainly focus, and what they demand is number one, iterative development, so the focus is better. Then you manage your requirements so that everybody is on the same page. You use your component architecture so that the whole product or the project is easy to maintain. We can have reusable components development. We should be able to model the software visually, So we should be able to visualize the working software compared to the documentation, and then verify the quality, finally control the changes. So these are the demands of all the engineering practices. Now when I talk about, Agile development methodology, I would like to just sum up, the topic today is quality practices in Agile, and not in going in details of Agile development as such. I'm assuming that people are aware of Agile development methodology, but I would like to bring everybody on the same page again in this webinar. by spending a couple of minutes on what is the focus on agile development. You know? So typically agile, I generally call it as a philosophy. It's a leadership philosophy. In this philosophy, not you and me are important, but us, it's us, the team. There's a close collaboration between the team members. It's a self-organized, disciplined team. Everybody is accountable for their own tasks and responsibilities. The team is empowered and there is full control on decision making. Now this team has to work hand in hand together to deliver. And that is the crux of Agile. Okay? And then the focus is we develop small incremental releases which are shippable, which are value adding from customer perspective. Okay? Now, because the focus is just on limited functionality and limited user stories per sprint, it can be better evaluated, and because of the frequent inspections and adaptation, it is easy for us to deploy the quality. And now what is important in this Agile is the user involvement, the customer involvement, which is
Hi Rama, there is a slight audio problem from your end. Can you please check? We are just checking with the speaker. Please have patience. Rama has some audio problems. Please be online. She would join back soon. Hello, Rama. Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Aradhna, I'm extremely sorry. I know GoToMeeting just lost its connection.
It's all right. We are still online, so I'm making you the presenter and you can start the
Yeah,
webinar where we have left off.
yeah, sure, definitely.
Rama, I just give you the presenter rights. Have you
Yeah,
received it?
yes, I have received this. Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's viewable. Can you go to the slideshow mode?
Yeah, I'll just, yeah. So I'll start from here again. Yeah. Extremely sorry, guys. Now GoToMeeting's connectivity was lost for a couple of minutes. So we are back again. Yeah.
All right, Rama, you
Okay,
can
so
continue.
yeah, fine. Yes. So, Agile development methodology is a unique development methodology which has its uniqueness. It categorizes like individual personal interaction more over processes and tools. It prefers working software over documents, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to changes over following a plan, and daily build creation. Now, these are some of the practices which are used in Agile. You may see this in Agile Alliance, very commonly used, these terminologies. So, the whole methodology talks about responding to changes, being agile. So daily build creation, preferably automated using continuous integration tools, and then daily testing, daily defect detections, identifying issues as early as possible, then explicitly specify acceptance criteria for user stories, preferably automated testing for regression, and better focus on the sprints and planning sprints with term capacity, like we have, and based on the man hours, we relate them to the story points. So we have predictable deliverables and predictable velocity. Velocity is how many story points our team has delivered in this particular capacity, number of man hours. Now when we talk about Agile, whatever the focus which I said, what is needed in the software development, that you develop iteratively because the focus is better. You manage requirements and changes because we are agile and we have, a better collaboration with all the stakeholders. All these things, they are implemented automatically, naturally. So when we talk about develop iteratively, we say that, we have objective milestones defined for those different sprints. We identify critical risks as soon as possible. We collaboration, typically collaboration drives the solutions and get user feedback as soon as possible. And as I said, managing requirements in Agile is the only one thing which I say very differently done in Agile than in other development methodologies. Because requirements evolve by collaboration. Understanding requirements from customers, from business analysts and all the stakeholders, implementing the change control within the sprint. Now change requests are prioritized, their impact is assessed. If impact is sizably big and our schedule is going haywire in the sprint, then we can take this story in the next sprint, okay? But then depending on the sprint status and impact of those change requests, we can make a decision whether we want to implement this particular story with the change request in the current sprint or we would like to go ahead and deploy it in the next sprint, okay? And then what about architecture, The component-based architecture is the focus of today's software, where we use different components because we want, to divide the whole product into different small chunks, and we should focus on the reusability of these components. This leads to improved maintainability and extensibility. This also helps us to promote clean division of work assignment. We can, based on the modules, based on the different interfaces, how these modules are linked, what will be the sequence of the module development, how interfaces should be linked together to ensure that the components are built together. We delegate these different component-based assignments to our team members. Then we come to working software. So working software is the main crux of Agile. Visual modeling, which improves our, improves our understanding of the requirements along with, managing the software complexity. This also helps us to capture the structure and behavior of the components and promotes unambiguous communication between the team. Okay. Another thing is Agile focuses also on the qualities, some of the quality practices like pair programming, peer code review. In many organizations, one story is owned by a developer and a QA, a testing member. Then we have continuous integration, continuous testing. These are practices which are adopted in Agile. Then we have acceptance criteria for each story. And then we measure product success more than measuring process success. So what is important again is the working software. The ready executable code on the machine is more important than any other thing. So the crux of the Agile is collaboration, empower team. All issues are owned by the team to drive solutions. There is a complete transparency and no surprises at the end. And not you and me, but the project and product is important. And that's why I said right at the beginning, Agile is not a methodology, it's a philosophy. We need to develop this particular aspect in our mind. Our mindsets must be changed. That I need to be accountable for my tasks. I'm accountable for the quality of my task. The quality is owned by everybody. Okay. Whatever the work I'm doing, I'm on the same page with all my team members. There is a very strong collaboration between the teams. We learn from business analysts, we learn from developers, we learn from testers. They are expert in different areas and their perceptions are different. A tester has a wider picture, a big picture of the product, while developer may have limited picture. But developer knows implementation details, while a tester knows the business requirements, the user expectations. Business analyst is a person who would guide us, the technical team members, who is interface between the end users and the engineering team. Now this business analyst must know the business. He should know the workflow of a specific feature and he should be able to add value in specifying these requirements. So this is all about Agile. So I have just focused more on Agile, and then the practices which are deployed in Agile. Now we move to another aspect of our agenda, that is quality practices. Typically when we say quality is deployed, how quality is deployed? It's PDCA, plan, do, check and act. It's a naming wheel. We say that quality is deployed using plan, do, check and act, and there is a continuous improvement. Quality is a journey without destination, and you need to continually improve. Now, the same concept, the Deming's PDCA concept, is very rightly implemented in Agile development methodology. Agile uses the same concept. We plan. What do we plan? We plan features, the releases, the sprints. We plan based on our capacity available, the resources and the manpower available. We do what we do. The team and the customer collaboration on requirements, understanding requirements, understanding the granularity of the requirements and evolving requirements. We do develop the design, we develop the core, we use the concepts of peer review and pair programming. What we do is build daily, continuous integration. We test it daily. So it's something like all activities we do in one time box. Okay. Now what we check? In Agile we have stand-ups. You all must be aware of what are stand-up meetings. Like every day in the morning or at the end of the day you assemble together and everybody, each and every team member will give you the updates about where we are, what task is done, what we have done today, what was the issue which was faced by me, and what I'm going to do tomorrow. And in case if the issue is faced, what support I need from the team. These are some of the areas which are communicated to the whole team in stand-ups. So what do we do finally? We track tasks, we track schedule, we track efforts. Okay, we track issues. Okay, we drive issues to solutions. Okay, and then issues are not owned by a single person. Issues are owned by the team. Okay, then we track risks. Whatever issues which we have, they may be related to project, related to process, related to people, related to requirements, related to stakeholders involvement, anything, which comes under the domain of project. All these issues are tracked to identify what are the risks involved, and then finally concurrent testing. That is verification and validation done on the daily basis. What we do after PDC is act. Now there are sprint retrospectives. The first sprint when we finish, we need to retrospect our performance, what we did well. What are the areas of improvement? There may be 10 areas of improvement. You need to prioritize them. And finally decide that these couple of them should be taken in my next sprint. So I track my planned improvement in my next sprint. So over and over, our performance should be shown, demonstrated as improving with respect to productivity and quality when we deploy each and every sprint in sequence. So Agile deploys PDCA very naturally, and PDCA is the crux of quality deployment. Agile focuses on continuous improvement, okay? And this continuous improvement is achieved by PDCA. Now when I talk about the last agenda point of the seminar, when I talk about quality practices in Agile, they automatically come and very naturally implemented. So we can say how VNV is implemented naturally. Requirements evolve by discussion and reviews of stakeholders and VA involvement. So we have, we automatically review user stories. We have implementation details in the form of mind map and workflow stories. Okay, and these implementation details and impact analysis details, they help us in actual coding. Okay, these drives stakeholders on the same page. What they drive? That all the stakeholders are on the same page. Requirements granularity evolve at the sprint level, and team collaboration is more important than department independence. Now this is a very important aspect. Collaboration of team is the first and foremost priority than department independence. When we talk about design, it's big design upfront. Generally, people have misconceptions about Agile. That designing is never done, architecting of the product is never done in Agile mode, But sprint -1 and sprint 0, they are explicitly reserved for identification of the product backlog, design in forms of architecture, and then components and interfaces and databases, and then come up with the sprint plan in the sprint 0. And then we deploy the sprints from sprint 1 to sprint end. Okay, quality, as I said earlier, is automatically taken care because of the peer reviews and peer coding. And naturally, because of the testing, because it is tested day in, day out. Okay. Automated build creation using continuous integration tools is a quality practice. Stories shall never be done if acceptance criteria is not met. User involvement in demonstration of working software is very essential. Every sprint must end with a demo to the customer, and customer's single point of contact should sign that demo for the correctness and acceptability. Okay, and that reduces risk at the early stage. So the crux is, natural tracking and implementation of all those issues which we want to do to ensure that our jigsaw puzzle fits all its pieces at the right places, Project management, tracking, scope tracking, schedule tracking, efforts and task tracking, issues tracking, risk assessment, escalations if needed, stakeholders involvement, quality management for compliance, configuration management for controls, and resource management for checks and balances. Better quality implies reduction of defect, reduction of rework cost, reduction of operational cost and support cost. So impact and the cost of quality is sizable. Agility in handling issues as soon as possible, better productivity, and enhanced motivation for engineers. The firefighting, defect fixing is more tiring than actually doing work. For 1 man-hour of clean coding, if it is done right the first time, it's cheaper, and if there is defect, we end up spending 4 times more efforts. So it is 1:4, So you spend 4 more hours in fixing the defects for the 1 man-hour work which you have done, which has issues in it. So it's always, not the work, but then the firefighting that is stressful. So the enhanced motivation for engineers is better because the defects reduction is better. Naturally, this drives to better customer satisfaction and directly proportional to the revenue generation and bottom line. We say that, for getting a new customer, we spend 10 times more money than retaining the existing customer. So why not retain the existing customer? Okay. The last slide. So what I have said here is quality definition suits more than 100% in Agile mode due to its nature of deployment and due to this methodology. I'm a big fan of Agile. Scrum I have been using, and I noticed that I have seen teams becoming empowered, teams becoming very strong, collaborating very strong, evolving as very empowered team, and then these teams, they deliver the right stuff. And what Deming has said, conformance to requirements is the quality. Fitness to use is quality according to Juran. So aren't we tracking this continuously in Agile mode? Yes, we're tracking continuously in Agile mode. Okay, so I'm done. And if you have any questions, please come up with your questions.
Yes, Rama, can you access the questions doc? Are you able to see it?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the question now.
All right, just like we did it before, can you drag it out and expand?
Yeah.
So, really thankful for the insightful presentation. We would be taking the questions now. I request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the insights.
Yeah, so I'll be taking, there are a lot of questions. I'm taking the first question. Can you list the roles and responsibilities of QA in Agile methodology? Yeah, this is a good question. See, basically this is asked by Madhav Prasad. QA's role, according to me, should be very empowered in Agile because QA gets involved right from the beginning. Right, QA is a very strong team member and collaborates right from beginning with developers as well as with business analysts. So QA should understand their business functionality, and this business functionality, QA should be able to test each and every story during the sprint itself with the right acceptance criteria. Okay, so you have to specify the right acceptance criteria for that particular story. You may have one or multiple test cases as acceptance test cases, but you should be able to ensure that they work properly well. And in the QA, you can have, multiple groups created. Few of the people can focus more on the stories and few of the people can focus more on regression. Because in the sprint, regression should also be done daily, day in and day out. Okay, so the role is pretty stronger. The role is to ensure that the user stories meet the acceptance criteria within the sprints. Another question is, what is pair programming? In many organizations, two developers, they are developing the same code. Now, why they are doing it? They are doing it because the right algorithm is in place. Okay, the code is optimized, and they work together to ensure that the code is optimized and perfect code. Now, this happens only when you have the right or additional bandwidth. In small organizations or in medium-sized organizations, you may not have additional bandwidth where pair programming can be implemented. In such cases, peer reviews, your developer sitting next to you can review your code, and then vice versa. This can also be implemented. What is important is code review in any form should be done to ensure that the coding standards are complied, code is optimized, and then there are no code level issues. As I said, 30+% of the defects are identified at this stage itself. So what we are doing is we are making our QA process better by doing the unit testing, and integration testing at the code level when we review the code. Okay. Okay, there's one question by Nishan Kumar. Usually within the sprint, we always talk of daily check-ins, daily builds, task completion from sprint backlog, but we never talk of daily testing and defects fixing. How does defect
Hi all, we are really sorry for this inconvenience. We are trying to re-log in Rama again. Please be patient in the meanwhile.
So Aradhana?
Yes, Rama, you're audible. I'm just giving you the presenter rights.
Yeah.
Did you receive it?
Oh, what? Yeah, I have received.
Alright, so I would be again giving you the questions.
Yeah.
Can you see the questions I have assigned to you?
Yes.
Alright, so I am assigning all the questions to you again. You can go through with them.
Okay, so what was the last question which I was talking? I think,
You can start with a new question, Rama.
okay, I think I'll start with the new question now. Okay, there is one question, how should we manage the frequent requirement changes given by customer, at the same time ensure that quality is deployed? Okay, this is by Urvashi. Okay, it's a good question, Urvashi. See, I have already said that in my webinar that whenever there are changes in the requirements, you should assess its impact analysis. Find out what is the impact. If a user story is getting impacted very sizably, okay, and then you are not able to fit the efforts in the same sprint, you can halt that particular user story, put it on hold. Put that user story on a hold, and whatever is your free bandwidth, you can insert another story from the product backlog. Okay, and move this particular story to another next sprint. Okay, this you can do whenever the impact is sizably high and you are not able to accommodate those efforts in the same sprint. However, if the impact is low, then you can definitely accommodate that particular change and you can take it. In the Scrum, basically, at what time the change has come is very important. You have 4-week sprint. The change has come at the last week, in the last week, at the fag end of the sprint, that is in the 4th week. Then there is no point in, taking over the change. You can move that change to the next sprint. If it is at early stage, that is in the first week itself, you have some changes in the requirement, then you can definitely focus more and accommodate and plan. So replanning and realigning of the stories within the sprint for that sprint's deliverable should be done by the project manager. Okay. Yeah, there's one question, what should happen if some work items in a sprint are not completed till the end of the sprint period? And can those be moved to the next sprint? Yeah, this may happen, initially. See, initially what happens is the sprints and then the deliverables in the form of velocity is not known within the team. Okay, so we do not know how much we are going to deliver. Okay, and this stabilizes when you are moving from one sprint to another, and within 4 to 6 months and 6 sprints, you should be able to know how much you can deliver. But then if such things happen, there is no harm in moving that particular story to the next sprint. What is important is whatever you are delivering in that sprint, all those stories should meet the acceptance criteria, and they are in the done phase. So they should be properly done with the acceptance criteria. Okay. How to define test coverage in this methodology, as time duration is very less to cover all the scope. Yeah, I agree with this. The time for testing is always short. Basically, each user story has its acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria must be very explicitly specified in such a way that the main business functionality should be properly evaluated. So you focus more on the business functionality, which is very high risk business functionality. Put more efforts of testing on this high risk business functionality and in verifying the acceptance criteria of this functionality. Okay. How do we identify sprints in Agile methodology? Typically you prepare a product backlog. Okay, a product backlog is prepared. It is prioritized based on the business requirement, and then based on the prioritized product backlog, which has its complexity, which has its sizes in the form of man-hours, efforts, we need to divide the whole product backlog into multiple sprints. And these sprints are also developed, and sprints are actually created based on what is needed by the customer. So customer also plays an important role, and it is based on what are the actual business needs from customer's perspective. Okay. How story points in Agile are calculated, and what we can link it with velocity. Okay. Now, basically, story point is nothing but evaluating the stories based on their complexity and the efforts needed for the development. In many organizations, story points can also be given as a Fibonacci series, something like 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, something like Fibonacci series, giving the complexity of that particular story. This is one thing. Another thing, it is also evaluated based on the complexity, high, medium, low. So maybe, something like 8 hours are needed for the low story, then 16 hours for the medium, and 32 hours for, high complexity story. So you have those man hours allocated. Okay. So based on typically, the sizes and the complexity, the story points are given and calculated to the stories. Okay. And then how we can link it with velocity? Yeah, this is a very good question. See, I have 5 people working in the team, and I calculate as 6 hours of productive time, and then my sprint is for 1 month, so that means 22 working days. So 5 into 6 into 22. These number of man hours are available with me. That is my capacity. Okay. Now I have on another hand different stories with their story points total, and story points can also be considered in the man hours. So suppose if I have something like 500 man hours as my capacity, and then I have something like story points varying from 400 to 600, I will have to ensure that I pick up those stories which are accommodated in this 500 man hours, okay, with some buffer in my hand, with some time left for me for other activities like meetings, communication, and so on. So basically there is a complete relation between story points and capacity, And now how much you deliver is velocity. You know, in my first sprint, maybe in 500 man hours, in my capacity, I have delivered 400 story points. Going ahead in 500 man hours, I can deliver 450 story points. Okay, so whatever I deliver is my velocity. Okay, so velocity is always, how much you have delivered in terms of story points. Okay. There is one question: how to avoid production bugs as the requirement is, changing, ever changing. As I said, I think I have answered this. It should not go to the production if the requirements are changing. Requirements should be changed in the sprints itself, and they should be managed and controlled within the sprints itself. I would not recommend change requirement implemented on the production environment. Okay. Does it make sense to capture effort in timesheet in Agile? See, basically tasks and efforts, they are always given in any tool which we are using for Agile project management. I can give names of the tools. There are a lot of freewares available, and there are paid tools also. Something like version 1 is one, Rally is the best one. Then you have TFS also. You have Agile Fund, which is a freeware. So you have a lot of freewares available. And these freewares, whenever you plan your sprint, you plan the stories, and within stories you have development as well as testing tasks. And then each task is given time, as man hours. So your man hours are calculated for that particular story. Your time sheet can be something different than your Agile project management tool, So in case if you are using Agile and all your productive efforts are going in Agile, then maybe the time sheet may be redundant. It all depends on how you are working and how operations are carried out for Agile deployment. What is your view on PMMI effectiveness on Agile process? TMMI is basically, testing levels of maturity, test maturity. It's like CMMI, maturity model, And test maturity model also talks about, improving your testing maturity going ahead phase by phase. Agile's CMMI model, CMMI has come up with version 1.3, which is compliant to Agile development methodology. So same way TMMI also you can talk about, but the nature of testing in Agile is different from actually TMMI, different levels of test maturity. Okay, we said earlier, we are more interested in working software and not in the process. So working software, workable software is the first priority in Agile. It doesn't mean that you should overlook the process, but then typically TMMI talks about, first initially it is the testing is not streamlined and planned, but then you have the test strategy in place, test plan in place, then test resources and test cases in place, and then you have measurements and metrics for finding out the effectiveness of the testing, and then going ahead ensuring that the testing is meeting the acceptance criteria. Okay. Yeah, there is a general question, how to increase the quality in work. I would rather say, like every day you are verifying the quality. Your requirements should be clearly understood, Don't go and start coding immediately unless you are clear about the workflow, unless you are clear about the mind map of the requirement, unless you verify from the business analyst what is needed. So once the requirements are clear, you code it. Your quality should be tested in your code. The second control is your code should be reviewed properly. You should execute code. Your unit testing should be done by the developers himself to ensure that the code is working fine. And then followed by that, when you integrate, you have to ensure that the acceptance criteria of the stories are met so that the quality gets built in your work.
Rama, though we have an overwhelming number of questions, but due to time constraint, I request you to take the unanswered questions offline, which I will share with you through email.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Right now I cannot go ahead and answer all these questions. We will take it offline. Yeah.
All right. So if you would like to sum up the session for today, you can do it now.
Yeah. So basically, as I said, I'm Agile fan. I have been using Scrum. The mode of Agile deployment itself is so clear that we automatically take care of a lot of quality issues in Agile. And today's world is moving very fast, where time to market is getting reduced, and we should be able to accommodate all the changes in the business as well as in the requirements. So we should be agile in delivering fast as soon as possible. So Agile is the right mode of development, and 92% of the global organizations, software development organizations, are using Agile today. Okay. Thanks all for the overwhelming response. I'm extremely sorry for GoToMeeting, this connection 2 times happened in the session. It was beyond my control. Okay. Thank you so much for being patient and being with us. Good day.
Yes, Rama. I'm really thankful to you for conducting this wonderful webinar today. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support and patience in making this webinar a success. The recording of the webinar will be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Rama, for your time. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Good day.